Do you ever dream of starting something game-changing? Then Visa can help make it happen. Maybe it's creating and selling your own customized kicks for cats, or transforming your dorm into a plushy pop-up shop, or finally going mainstream with your streaming side hustle. The NFL is full of game changers. Just think about watching Patrick Mahomes during his MVP season and knowing as you watched every single game that the league was never going to be the same. Whatever you're bold enough to try, Visa has the power to help bring your game-changing ideas to life. Visa. Anyone can change the game. Sunday Night Football is back on Peacock and NBC. Experience live games, full replays, exclusive post-game breakdowns, and more. Join today, because if it's made for Sunday night, it's made for Peacock and NBC. I don't know about you guys, but shopping for a dress shirt is one of my least favorite things to do when it comes to clothing and my wardrobe. I can never find the right one. They're either too stiff, or the ones that are made of athletic material don't feel dressy enough or a little bit too casual. That's why I'm so glad that I found Mays and Main. Mays and Main are the inventors of the performance fabric dress shirt. Mays and Main combines the comfort and flexibility of your favorite athletic wear with the fit and style of a custom dress shirt. Lightweight, breathable, and moisture wicking, Mays and Main's clothing will have you looking great. Basically, they make really comfortable dress shirts that you need to try to believe. I can tell you firsthand that Mays and Main's dress shirts are actually the best ones that I've ever worn. Possibly the best part of their dress shirts is that they're machine washable. That means no more expensive trips to the dry cleaner, where I've spent way too much money over the years. And if you somehow still aren't a believer, they've got over 30,000 5-star reviews, so you know they make a great product. I've been to a couple weddings in the last couple months. I've worn my Mays and Main shirts at both of them. Incredibly comfortable, incredibly stylish, best of both worlds. If you wear dress shirts and don't wear Mays and Main, you are making a big mistake. So if you want the best damn dress shirts that money can buy, check out Mays and Main. Right now, if you go to Mays and Main and use promo code MAYS, you'll receive $30 off any regular price order of $125 or more. That's $35 off when you go to MIZZENANDMAIN.com and use our promo code MAYS.
This is the Athletic Football Show.
Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me today is my good friend Diante Lee. Diante, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. I don't know if people know, but Southern California last week was dealing with like monsoon-like conditions, like almost a hurricane basically just missed us off of the Gulf of Mexico. So we have finally cooled down weather-wise, and between that and football being in full swing, man, I'm feeling good right now.
I'm feeling good to have you here. We are trying something new on Mondays on the Athletic Football Show. Every Monday, Diante is going to be here doing something we're going to call the Monday Hangover. We're going to talk about a handful of games. Notice I'm not saying exactly how many because I don't want to lock myself into a certain number. We're going to talk about a handful of games that we just don't have time to get to on the Sunday night show. We like to go a little bit more in depth on some of these games. There's no way we can hit all of them. There's no way we can even hit 10 to 12 of them. So on Mondays, we're going to talk about a handful that we could not get to with me and Nate last night. Very excited to dig into this with you, and I think people should be as well. All right, let's kick this off. I want to start with the Sunday night game from last night, Packers-Bears. Diante, there are a lot of different ways we can go with this. I want to start in a place that I still don't really want to start. I don't even really want to start going down this road, but I feel like it's time.
Let's address the pain.
Justin Fields.
Yeah,
I'm worried about Justin Fields. It's not just the numbers. Obviously, he threw for 70 yards last night. 30 of them came on a flea flicker on the first drive. The Bears threw the ball 11 times. But I'm concerned about the process. I'm concerned about what it's like watching him play the position, some of the details that come along with it. Are you ready to talk me down here, or are we going to go down a road that I'm not going to enjoy?
Before I rewatched it, I was ready to talk you down and, use all the same talking points that I think everybody would kind of fall back on, offensive line, supporting cast, play caller, et cetera, et cetera. And then I turned on the tape and I was like, oh, wow, like the pocket navigation is a problem, like a capital P problem. And I think that it becomes frustrating, and I understand how you landed where you landed, because it's not like he lacks for arm talent. He can place the ball wherever. It's not like he lacks for, athletic ability. If he wants to tuck and run, he can hurt a defense with that. It just seems like so often the tuck and runs are, man, you could have slid in the pocket or stepped away from pressure and delivered the ball. And then the times that he does try to squeeze the ball in the windows, it's like, maybe you could have extended a little bit differently or checked it down instead of trying to push the ball so much. And they obviously didn't have a lot of opportunities. It felt like almost every other drive for them was a 3 and out or starting off.
They ran like 43 plays last night.
Yeah, the all 22 film of this was like 21 minutes, which is like not something you do not expect to see from an NFL game. That to me really stood out was the pocket navigation issues for a Packers defense that doesn't even feature, one of those top tier edge rush types. They were just strictly pushing the pocket on him, and he had a really difficult time escaping, buying himself time, and delivering the ball down the field. And he had a few misses on some vertical shots as well that could have opened the game up for them, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the Darnell Mooney deep one was really one of the only times they let him open up the throttle. Yep. He sailed that thing by about 10 yards. The play that sticks out to me is the play where he got called for the illegal forward pass.
Yes.
Packers run a game on the right side. Lucas Patrick actually does a valiant job cleaning it up at the last second to keep his quarterback clean. And there is space in front of him. But rather than slide up in the pocket, which it's a really interesting contrast to what it's like to watch Aaron Rodgers play. There was a play early in the game where Rodgers finds an opening, slides up, and hits Randall Cobb coming across the field on a beautiful third down conversion. And I'm not asking Justin Fields to be Aaron Rodgers, but being able to keep your eyes down the field, to be able to keep yourself square to the line of scrimmage, to be able to navigate that space and keep yourself alive as a passer and feel where that pressure is and where you can escape and where you can keep yourself safe. He struggles to do that. He really does. And when you were looking at Justin Fields last year, if you were trying to talk yourself into the optimistic case for Justin Fields, there are a few different points. The coaching and the offensive system has to be better this year than it was last year. And I do think so far it is. If you look at the run game and some of the designs and some of the ideas that they have for him, I do think the plan is more sound. The other side of it was the splash plays are there. He can push the ball down the field. His arm doesn't lack for anything arm-wise. He can place balls down the field. To me, it's about the process and it's about the feel he has for the game. That stuff wasn't part of the conversation because we knew that was bad. And I needed to see that get better. And it hasn't gotten better so far. I know the offensive line isn't great, but I think you can try to separate some of these issues from the play of the offensive line, as difficult as that might seem.
It's funny, man. Watching him last night, it reminds me a lot of like what the first half of the season looked like for Jalen Hurts last year, where there's just kind of all over the place in terms of the pocket navigation, the decision making. Against a team like the Packers, there is a degree of this that requires you to force the ball into tight windows because they're going to play aggressive coverage. You're going to get a lot of cover one. You're going to get a lot of aggressive quarters from them. And with, the supporting cast in terms of receivers being what it is, there's even less, disincentive for the Packers to move off of that. So you do have to be able to beat guys with tight window throws with your arm. You have to be able to extend plays by navigating the pocket properly. So there is a piece of this that is like, perfect opponent to kind of expose all the things that are wrong with Fields and this offense that you were seeing on Sunday night. But definitely, I think about a vertical throw on a play action pass that I think Eric Stokes or Jair Alexander just completely released. And he was looking that way and didn't even push the ball there and ended up checking it down after working through the rest of his progression. And those are the plays where you're looking at a guy like Justin Fields and you have to say, hey, man, if you confirm one-on-one on a vertical, I understand that your guys are not necessarily ball winners, but against a defense like that, when you're, as kind of paltry offensively as you are in the passing game, you got to take those shots, especially when they present themselves in that kind of way, in order to be able to open up space, I think, for the rest of the offense, especially on a day where you're able to run the ball well. There's not a guarantee that they're going to be able to run the football like this week over week. And I think that some of that might be a little structural with the Packers, which I'm sure that we'll get to. But if you're having a day where Montgomery, is able to generate in the run game, you have got to take advantage of that with your play action passes. You've got to be able to take advantage of that with your legs if your throw isn't there. I would be more at peace if he was just one and gun and completely just tuck and run and I'm going 100 miles an hour. I can make peace with that. It's like the indecision when you're not sure of what you're looking at. Patting the ball. Okay, I'm going to step up. Now I want to run. Now I want to throw. And that's how you get that, pass beyond the line of scrimmage play. And then things like just missing guys in those intermediate areas. there's definitely a bit of this right now where I feel like the evolution has to be on Fields' part and less so on the offenses, because what they have is just what they have. And I think that what they're doing is the best utilization of the guys that they have. They're going to need Fields to be a better guy under center for them if they want to turn this thing around offensively.
Yeah, the lack of just the indecisiveness and just the pace at which he's playing the position are a concern, and they were a concern last year, and that just needs to improve. The supporting cast is so bad. Yeah. I mean, the pass catching options. Equiminius St. Brown is a starting receiver on this team. Okay, he played 311 snaps for the Packers last season. 67 of those came in week 8, which I believe would have been the game where their entire wide receiving core was out with COVID, and the game where Aaron Jones had like a dozen targets in that game. He's just not somebody that you want as part of your normal rotation. He's a very good run blocker, and that's what he was last night. That's what this team does well. They're just built. They have so many run blockers, and that's what they have. Yes. But you just can't live that way. You can't. You have to be able to drop back and throw the football in the NFL, and they cannot do it for a variety of reasons right now. And it's starting to get to a point where I'm truly concerned about it. On the flip side,
last thing I was going to say, I think that's really kind of stated by the note that I saw that you left when we were talking pre-show, which is that Cole Kmet is getting no work in this offense right now. And you would like a guy like Kmet, a big body guy who can maybe not create a bunch after the catch, but at least be a solid option for you over the middle of the field. If Fields can't find a way to get the ball to guys like that, again, to just relieve some of this pressure on the passing game, it's going to be like this week over week. Even if it's not at this degree, it's going to be like this week over week.
On the flip side, a lot of panic over the Packers offense in week 1. Going back and watching that offense last night, here's what it felt like. This is one of those moments where you exhale a little bit and you realize that the people in charge of this know what they're doing.
Yes.
The hands on the wheel are sturdy with this team. I thought they did so many interesting things in the run game. I thought they did a really good job of getting their best players on the field, so many different snaps. And here's the difference to me. I want to hear what you think about this. It's so easy to say, we're going to put Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon on the field together. It's going to be a huge part of our game plan. We see teams do this shit all the time, where they do stuff that's just bells and whistles for the sake of having the bells and whistles. And I thought that the Packers did such a good job of having designs within the offense in the run game, in the passing game, that made sense with those two guys in the field. You're using their skill sets in the correct way. You're using one of them as eye candy in the correct way, and just consistently allowing the game to be easier for you, especially in the run game, because of the intentional, unconscious ways that you're using them both, not just throwing them out there because it's a little bit different and a little bit wonky.
Right. I think on their opening drive, the first note I left was like, Aaron Jones, RPO guy. Because I see him running bubbles and, these kind of slide routes on these RPOs. And to your point about guys knowing what they're doing, I think it's really interesting to look at LaFleur through that lens, because it seems clear that he kind of has 2 gears within this offense. It's what he believes you can do when they can push the ball vertically, which is what we saw in 2021. And then you have what he believes this offense needs to look like when the verticality is not there within it. And that's what you saw prior with all the Devontae Adams, manufactured touches in seasons prior on those bubble screens, the hitches, the slants. So it's funny to look at them now. How are they weaponizing this personnel to get back to being a more perimeter-based offense? And that's how you get Aaron Jones is an RPO guy. That's how you get some of the pin and pull stuff, where you've got a bunch of linemen pulling out onto the perimeter, forcing guys in run support to have to take on blocks. That's been a great way for them to get Dillon, to get Jones out on the perimeter, and it ties up well with outside zone, it ties up, the duo and power stuff tie up well together. And that keeps guys like Aaron Rodgers clean. Right now, you can't just tee off and say, hey, if you're a quick game team, we're just going to man you up, and get after you up front. All of this kind of eye candy to that point, the condensed splits, the play action, getting guys out in the flats, running these screens, kind of getting back to the true spread offense piece of this that LaFleur brought. I think that's been really interesting to see. And now looking at them last night, I walked away with it feeling as though the roadmap for them to still be successful offensively is there, in a way that I might have had some questions about it leaving that Vikings game. Like, now I can see a very clear opportunity for them to still be one of the better offenses in the league.
It helps for the offensive line to get back healthy, get a couple more of those guys on the field. I thought they weaponized Josh Myers in a really impressive way in the run game. The fact that they're going to lean into what he can do on the move and have those pin pull looks be a more robust part of their run game plan, I think is a really good sign. I think they can do a lot of fun stuff with that. It all ties together. And and when you watch it, it just feels good. On the first drive, they come out in 12 personnel, I guess is what you would call it. DeGar is on the field with another tight end.
Mm-hmm.
He's lined up in split back. And the Bears match that with base. They have 3 linebackers on the field. The Packers are like, all right, sounds good. Play action. Watkins on an in-breaker behind it against those 3 linebackers, chunk play. So the Bears defensive staff is like, well, I guess we can't do that anymore. So for the most of the rest of the game, couple small exceptions, but often when they were in 21 or 12, they had nickel on the field because we cannot defend the pass if we have 3 linebackers on the field. Okay. Your nickel corner is a guy who didn't play nickel, I don't think, much in college.
Nope.
And is somebody that is a rookie. And now we're going to put him in hell for 60 straight minutes. And it's not his fault. It is not Kyler Gordon's fault. But you see how intentionally with him on the field, by formation, by motion, they're going to get him in the run fit as often as they possibly can. He made one nice play against the run, but he missed a bunch of tackles. He got swallowed a bunch of times. There was one play, I think it was the first drive of the second half, where they literally motioned Christian Watson in a certain way to get Gordon right into the run fit, and then he whiffs in space. And when you just see those levers constantly being pulled, combined with pretty good players in the run game, that's how you see the result that you saw last night. It's just a well-orchestrated offense, and my heartbeat has slowed a little bit when it comes to this team after watching that game.
Yes, absolutely. I will say, to the point that you opened with, I do think that this offensive line can still be a bit of a question mark. Like, I would still have kind of like a yellow flag up for them. You know, they did give up a bit of pressure with Chicago only rushing 4. You know, that definitely has kind of piqued my interest. You see, to see how they address that throughout the season. But to your point, I think what I really walked away with was confirmation that the menu is still full for Matt LaFleur, even if it's not what it was in 2021. All the flood concepts that they ran, I felt like they ran their entire passing game up the sideline, you know, giving Aaron Rodgers something that was clean and clear to work through in terms of progressions because of what they have up front, or what they are missing up front, I should say. The 21 pony personnel, which means 2 true running backs that we talked about, that was just like a gross package for them. You could tell that the Bears had absolutely no idea how they wanted to deal with that. The pin and pull stuff was exactly how they were able to attack Kyler Gordon, who, to your point, spent a lot of time in cover 1 in college, not playing nickel, not having to fit the run as a primary fitter. And another note I left, and this is a total non sequitur, but I was just thinking, like, shouldn't this be the Russell Wilson offense in Denver, right? Like,
yes,
if this was the Russell Wilson offense in Denver, that would be a great look for them. And to me, that just, again, is a credit to LaFleur in looking at exactly what they have and don't have and saying, all right, we can get back to more of the spread stuff, more of the eye candy, get the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands quicker, and still be effective enough because of what they can do in the run game. It's really interesting to see LaFleur look at Aaron Rodgers and still see, all right, our best methodology to success is leaning into what we have in the backfield and allowing Aaron to play off of that.
I thought that, I want to talk about Kyler Gordon just for a second. I think people are going to really dump on how he played in this game. He had some bad moments, but I don't think they're nearly as bad as they might have looked at first glance. You and I were talking about that big completion to Watkins down late in the game in the fourth quarter, where it looks like he burns Kyler Gordon. Eddie Jackson's just nowhere to be found on that play. It looked like cover 1 to me. He's supposed to be the post safety on that play, and he's just sitting there about 6 yards past the line, staring into the backfield.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there like, well, yeah, he's funneling Watkins to you in the way that he probably should in that situation. Right. That's not on Kyler Gordon. So there are going to be some down moments for him, for Brisker. It's going to happen, especially when you're playing against this team where you have to be a part of the run game, and they're going to make the game really hard on you. The same excuses do not apply to the Bears linebacking core, who were put in a torture chamber for 60 minutes last night. There were plays where Nicholas Morrow had no idea what planet he was on. And that's the point. That's the point of what this offense can do to you when it's really rolling.
I mean, and it's not just him, right? Even with Roquan Smith, who I thought played relatively well. If you can, the more you can do with linebackers to get them moving laterally, the more likely you are to be successful. And that's what all of this stuff is doing. The RPO, as you're seeing guys, okay, am I in the run fit? Am I out of the run fit? Am I responsible for the bubble? Or am I supposed to be playing the cutback on run game? Pin and pull means, oh, my gap is not going way out to the perimeter. I've got to go chase the ball way out there. The less downhill they are, the better it is for this offense. And it's really putting you in positions now where if you're a defensive coordinator, you have to make hard decisions on, do we send pressure against a quarterback who's seen every pressure on earth in order to be able to stop the run on what they're doing on the perimeter, you know, and you open yourself up to screens and all these other things. So looking at this game, it's like, okay, not only can they do what they just did, there is a whole cascading effect of offense that can come off of this if defenses really try to lean into defending some of the perimeter stuff a little bit more than I think what the Bears did.
Would you like to have some discourse about the Packers' run defense?
Yes, I think I don't want to be definitive, but I think I have figured out exactly what this issue is for them.
I'm ready.
And this is something I was talking about with some of the guys that I speak about football with often. I think I might have miscast Joe Barry as a Fangio-esque guy looking at his coaching tree. I think he spent more. Well, he's married to a Marinelli, and he spent a lot of time coaching with Rob Marinelli. And one of the things that I know about Rob Marinelli is that a lot of what they want to do in the run game has to be handled up front. And I think that because of that, the Packers are kind of like a cover one defense, more or less. With that, I think the issues that they bump into is the fact that you have what you have on the edge. You don't want Preston Smith playing out in coverage. So they're really not a 3-4. They're more of a 5-2, and you're also a cover one defense. Well, if you want to do that and you're asking your front guys to be more vertical, which is what they do, you don't see a lot of gap and a half or trying to stretch plays horizontally a bunch. If you're going to play vertically like that, your linebackers basically can't miss. And what I saw from the Bears was with a lot of those perimeter runs, those backside linebackers are just getting cut off, play after play after play. It's Quay Walker trying to go underneath blocks, Devondre Campbell trying to go underneath blocks. That's something you can do if you're a true 3-4 odd front cover 4 defense, because there's a certain layering that's happening where the safety can make me right. The edge defenders can, squeeze away space to allow me a little bit of margin for error. That doesn't really exist in the way that I think they want to defend, especially when they have their base personnel on the field. So all the penny stuff that we've talked about where it's 5 down, 2 high safety, we're going to ask our edge defender to basically control the C gap for us so our safety can stay high and our linebacker can rock over the top. You can do that, or you can say that you want to be that until you're blue in the face. But for them with the Packers, they're just not good enough at the linebacker position with flowing to make up for, I think, the fact that they can't be as versatile when they have 2 true outside linebackers on the field. So that's going to be a major piece of what I'm evaluating for them is, do they just have to play that kind of 2-4-5 personnel where you're playing more even front and then opening yourself up to more downhill runs, which is something that was hurting them again with David Montgomery early in the game before they kind of adjusted to fitting everything out of that penny package. I think that's going to be the back and forth for them all season long.
The penny package is 5 down linemen, 1 linebacker. So you have your nickel defensive back personnel on the field, but only 1 linebacker, and you still have 5 down.
Playing that 5 down, right? Bare front, odd front type of deal.
There was one play, Rashawn Gary had a TFL at the beginning of the start of a drive. And if you look back on it, Justin Skate actually tweeted out a video of the play. And the way that how vertical the defensive line is playing on that play specifically, like, I think that's kind of what you're talking about, where that's not usually what you see out of that tree that we're talking about with Fangio and Staley. It's not, you're not trying to get that far afield to be disruptive. You're trying to eat up blocks. Right. And it doesn't feel like that's how they want those guys to play.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that just opens up the door to different issues. So to me, it's just, can you continue to play that cover one tight coverage style while also being vertical in the run fit game and have your linebackers make up the difference? The Bucs can do it because of what they got at linebacker. I don't think that they have the Bucs linebackers.
All right, let's get to our next one here. Actually, yeah, let's get to our next one here. Jets, Browns. Actually, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll get to Jets, Browns. Sorry. Imagine having one extra day per week. More time to cook healthy meals, work on that novel, or just binge some good reality TV. I know I would love a day just to do some reading, catch up on some personal time, especially during the season that gets a little bit tough. Now, it's all possible with ClickUp, the productivity platform that'll save you 1 day a week on work, guaranteed. ClickUp began with the premise that productivity was broken. There were too many tools to keep track of, too many things in entirely separate ecosystems. There had to be a more productive way to get through the daily hustle. ClickUp is the one tool to house all of your tasks, projects, docs, goals, spreadsheets, and more. ClickUp is built for teams from 1 to 1,000 or more. It's packed with features and customization options that no other productivity tool has, so you can work the way you work best. Whether you're in project management, engineering, sales, marketing, or HR, ClickUp has easy-to-use solutions that create a more efficient work environment. Join the more than 800,000 highly productive teams using ClickUp today. Use code Mays to get 15% off ClickUp's massive unlimited plan for a year. meaning you can start reclaiming your time for under $5 a month. Sign up today at clickup.com and use code MAYS. Hurry, because this offer ends soon. In recent years, we've had a lot more productive conversations about how mental health fits into the sports world, from athletes taking time off to how mental health issues fit into the everyday importance of being focused and in the zone. More athletes are speaking out about the importance of mental health, but you don't have to be a pro to want to be at the top of your game. Everyone needs to take care of their mental well-being, whether you're an athlete or not. And therapy is the best way to keep yourself in peak mental shape. I'm a huge proponent of weekly therapy. I've gone for years now. I just feel like it's a great way to check in with yourself, talk about and assess your goals, how you're spending your time, what your routines look like. I know that it's helped me in a big, big way. And if you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists at any time. When you're ready to feel at the top of your mental health game, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/maze today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/MAYS.
I am hungover.
We have plenty of drops to pick from here from Ken, which I really appreciate. All right, where do you want to start with this game? Because my thought is a lot of people on the internet over the last 24 hours or so, different comments I've seen about this game, is that, all the things that had to happen for the Jets to win this game, onside kick and missed extra points and everything. Totally understand that. It's not like this was a blowout where the Jets made some miraculous comeback down the back half of this game in the final two quarters. This game was tight throughout. Joe Flacco finished 6th in EPA per dropback among all quarterbacks on Sunday against a Browns defense that we were tepidly excited about coming into the season, at least the personnel. So I don't think this is some one-sided affair where the Jets got really lucky down the back half of this game. I was actually pretty impressed with the way that the Jets offense played for most of this game. So when coming away from this, are you more enthusiastic about what the Jets can do offensively, or are you more concerned about where the Browns are on defense?
I think given some of the conversations we had in the offseason about the Browns, I would definitely lean more concerned about this defense than excited about the Jets offense. Though I do think it's going to be really fascinating when Zach Wilson is 100% ready to go, watching how Joe Flacco is operating in that offense. I know that's something that we've thrown out as kind of like a joke question, but it looks less and less like a joke week over week.
He looks pretty good yesterday.
He was pretty good. I was not expecting that, outside of like the completely forgot that he was on a football field and just dropping the ball on Myles Garrett in the red zone. Everything else looked really good for him. But looking at the Browns defense, and I don't know if I would like definitively categorize it on this extreme, but I want to use this to kind of paint a picture. But to me, if you want to look at the difference between being Gus Bradley in 2022 and DeMeco Ryans in 2022, it's whether or not the pass rush gets home enough for all your coverage versatility to matter. And that's where I think that the Browns are at. Pass rushers, elite pass rushers who don't get a bunch of sacks in a game, I think get a lot of undue criticism. And I think that that'll eventually come from Myles Garrett. But if you go back and watch him specifically, he did a great job of affecting the pocket. I think that there's just not enough around him for that initial pressure to be as valuable as it needs to be. I was thinking, drop back after drop back, I was just looking at how comfortable Joe Flacco looked working through his progression. And that just shouldn't happen against this Jets offensive line. So if they're not getting home, the questions that we talk about with these zone heavy defenses, where are you playing cover 3 where the safety is rolling down into being one of the interior defenders, or is it cover 4? Are you playing Tampa 2 and disguising it? All these things you want to do at the 4-man rush really requires what I like to call that additional layer of coverage, quote unquote, which is pass rush affecting the quarterback. Right? Because if there's nothing to bother you, well, then any NFL quarterback, you give them enough time, can identify what's happening on the back end and be efficient making decisions off of that. And that's what a lot of this was, especially in the second half. They were not able to get home. And with that, it puts you in positions to where you have to do what I think Joe Woods did, which was send a lot of 5-man pressures. And those were okay. But now you're talking about a quarterback, again, who's very seasoned in the NFL, just dropping the ball off on their hot throws, play after play. And so it's that kind of never ending back and forth kind of tug of war thing. So they're going to have to find more on the defensive interior. They're going to need more out of their secondary edge rushers to not only get the most out of Myles Garrett, but to make what they have on the back end matter.
The one play that really jumps out, they had a 3rd and 7 in the second half where they brought a nickel pressure and JOK was mugged up and he couldn't get back all the way underneath it. And you saw Grant Delpit after the play. He was visibly frustrated.
Yes.
He's like, this can't happen. And there was a lot of that. And the Jets are 8 of 15 on 3rd down in this game. There were chunk plays when you just can't give up chunk plays. There was a 2nd and 16 at one point, right after a Myles Garrett sack. And Flacco hit Corey Davis on a deep dig. And John Johnson was the post safety and just doesn't drive on it hard enough. It's a long completion down the left sideline, I believe to Elijah Moore, where Denzel Ward is just giving him tons of cushion in cover 3. And it's just a lot of easy completions in ways that aren't necessarily coverage busts. They're just built into the way that they're trying to play in those moments. It's like, guys, I expected more from this group in year 2 together. I know Martin Emerson is getting a lot of run with Greedy Williams out, and Garrett Wilson absolutely cooked him on that fade. It was absolutely disgusting. Garrett Wilson had some nice moments in this game. But other than that, these are guys that have played in the system for multiple years, that have played together, and are either highly drafted players, in the case of Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome, or highly compensated players like John Johnson. Grant Delpit's a 2nd-round pick. Like, they have put a lot into this position group for them to allow Joe Flacco to throw the ball the way that he did yesterday.
And that just goes back to say that all of this stuff is married together for all of the debate about coverage versus pass rush. Or do you need elite corners? How do you want to build up the spine of the defense? All this stuff affects one another. And to me, playing defense has a lot more to do with a lack of weaknesses than overwhelming strengths. While you would like to have those top premier players, a true shutdown corner, a true premier edge rusher, the truth of the matter is that they're only as valuable as your weakest link. And right now, the Browns do just have some holes, and you think about what they were able to do in the run game as well. The Jets didn't blow them up in terms of the rushing stats. But if you go back and just watch within the context of the game, when they wanted to gain yardage on the ground, they were able to do so, which again is something that we talked about, coming into this season. So I think that when you can get them in the 3rd downs, I think that they'll be a little bit better than the variance allowed them to be this past game. I think that they'll do a little bit better on 3rd down, obvious passing situations of getting home. But if a guy like Joe Flacco is that comfortable on early downs, that to me kind of speaks to, well, maybe you can't just be, hey, we're going to rush 4 and mix up our coverage pictures on the back end, and that'll be enough to really bother an offense. They've got to find a way to be able to generate pressure that does not involve them bringing 5 or 6 guys. Because when you lean, the more that you tilt into that, the more you open the door for guys to get exposed in coverage. And that gets to those deep comebacks, along the sideline and fire zone coverage, or those deep digs and over routes. Owusu Koromoa can do a lot as an interior zone defender, but you still got to be able to get home for those guys to matter. Even a guy like Fred Warner would struggle if he didn't have any pass rush in front of him. So that's something that absolutely has to be addressed. And the problem is I just don't know where that is on the roster for them.
I don't mean this in a pejorative way. The Jets lead the league so far in bullshit gains on offense.
Yes.
They have so many bullshit gains built bullshit chunks of yardage. There are so many of them built into this. Braxton Berrios jet sweeps and different 2-person. They have a pony package now. It's not shocking that the offensive coordinator for the Jets is related to the head coach and play caller for the Packers. Right. Just stealing some of that stuff with Michael Carter and Breece Hall on the field at the same time. So I appreciate it. Like, when you don't think your offense is going to be great, you should be near the top of the league in bullshit chunks of yardage. And so I like a lot of the stuff that I've seen from the Jets in the first 2 weeks on that front.
Yeah, I think that to me, again, speaks to why it's going to be so fascinating for me what this offense looks like when they get their young guy back. Because I do see an infrastructure for him to be able to step in, and they can legitimately look at him and say, we are not going to ask you to do all the things that we asked you to do last season. You could probably just copy and paste a lot of these Joe Flacco plays over for him and say, hey, we're not going to tell you that you got to navigate a pocket excellently. We'll give you those screens to Garrett Wilson that we saw yesterday. We'll give you those jet sweeps. We'll give you, tailback screens and things of that nature. And I think that addressing it in that way would be really helpful for him. But to your point about those bullshit gains, or the fake offense stuff, as I like to call it, that stuff is really valuable for this because of the questions that I think that they have week over week in terms of offensive line. And if they can generate that and still have some sort of viability with the run game, I still don't think they're good, but it certainly makes them much more interesting to watch on a week by week basis.
Just little things, little moments where I was like, ooh, that's nice. Like they had a 3rd and 6 on a drive, and they motioned Garrett Wilson down into a stack, and he ran a little jerk route against Greg Newsome for a first down. So Julian Edelman special. How many millions of times did you see the Patriots do that on 3rd down when they know they're getting man coverage? The completion to Hall for the touchdown, just like little bits of confusion down into the goal line. Browns were absolutely lost. The one play, I mean, it's indefensible, and it's one of the reasons they lost the game. What the hell happened on that Corey Davis touchdown?
I don't know. Like
I watched it 10 times.
I really don't know. If I had to be as apologetic as absolutely possible, I would have to say that maybe the corner thought that it was just a corner route and he just fell off playing underneath it. But that was one of those plays that was so bad you didn't even see the corner do the hands up, hey, somebody is supposed to cover for me thing. Everybody just kind of looked at each other like, yeah, we fucked that up, didn't we? We
it
definitely
looks like quarters. Right?
It looked like quarters for a bit, yes.
And I just didn't understand, because on that play, like if it's quarters, that's all you, buddy.
That's all you.
There's no help coming there. It was a very confusing play, and those are just the types of moments where it's like, I just don't want those sorts of busts from a team that we're supposed to really like coming into the season. The Browns are 28th in dropback EPA allowed over their first 2 games. Like the way this team is built and where they need to be good, that shouldn't
be possible. It should not be possible with this defensive backfield.
Last note on that side of the ball, I'm excited about Garrett Wilson. He had some moments in this game beyond that touchdown. He had a play, speaking of corner routes and just smash concepts, or sail. It's just a little curl and then a little corner out behind it.
Right.
They hit it against quarters, and Denzel Ward came up on the little stop route. And Garrett Wilson, the vertical push he had at Delpit on that play to make him back up and then break it outside, it was like, ooh. Like that guy's playing with some conviction as somebody in his 2nd career game, and you like to see that. So the fact that he's playing really well just within the structure of the offense, they're scheming stuff up for him. I'm excited to see where that goes with him.
That was what I was going to walk away with, was like what they're scheming up for him. I'm like, oh, that's a great way to utilize his skill set. They missed him on a little spot and go in the high red zone, or in the low red zone. I believe I want to say it was a second and 3rd down where Cleveland was playing some kind of Tampa 2 or red zone 2 type of look where you got him completely isolated against the Mike backer. It's like, oh, okay, you guys clearly have an intentional red zone package where this is for 17 to get a one-on-one in this scenario where we know we're going to get some kind of too high coverage or some kind of pressure look. That to me is fascinating. And I think it says a lot about Garrett Wilson, who I had a little bit of questions about in terms of what he was going to look like in terms of a role at the NFL level. But if he's there, move around, manufacture touches for a guy, especially underneath, on those option routes against linebackers or zone defenders, that to me is going to open up, I think, what's the best piece of his game, which is what he can create after the catch.
He had a double move that was pretty close to being a huge chunk play. Newsome actually had a really good play on it. Yeah. But, I mean, it was really fun to see all the ways that they were deploying him in this game. On the other side of the ball, I want to start with the Jets defense, because this was supposed to be the area of this roster that improved the most from last year to this year. They were the worst defense in the NFL. They finished dead last in a lot of the advanced metrics that you're going to look at. Where do you think the Jets defense ranks in EPA per play over the first 2 games of the season?
It can't be high. It can't be
31st, which is technically an improvement over where it was last year, but it's still not what you want to see. The Browns are moving the ball pretty efficiently and easily in this game, and it wasn't just on the ground. Like they had some chunks through the air, especially off play action. The Browns offense is very well constructed, right? Like, I mean, there's all of the jet motion they're using now with Demetric Felton. It's just like every single time this team needs a new bell and whistle in the run game to just add one more layer of difficulty and nonsense, they're able to find it. But it's still, even if you're playing against a team that we like the design and the intention of the offense, this is still Jacoby Brissett playing quarterback.
I mean, so this is funny. So my old pal Seth Galena sends a message to me, and he was like, Jacoby Brissett is good. I was like, what are you talking about? But Jacoby Brissett is good. I was like, I don't think you could have a more damning indictment of what the Jets defense was. And my guy Seth coming into the group chat saying that Jacoby Brissett is somehow the answer for whatever is going on with the Browns offense. But I think that it's very well constructed, to your point. A lot of the gap scheme stuff, even out of the gun, I thought worked really, really well for Brissett. And I thought that he did a really good job of being efficient in his dropbacks and getting the ball out quickly and allowing guys to go create after the catch. Getting the ball to guys on the move was a big piece of that offense. And if they can generate that, then against a team like the Jets, which can't really rush the passer right now, and don't really have the horses to be able to play a bunch of tight coverage, you get that kind of exposure that I think we saw on Sunday.
Whoa. This is a problem, okay? If the Jets can't run the passer and they can't play tight coverage,
then they're going to stink.
With the amount of money and draft picks that they have pumped into this side of the ball, then we need to have a serious conversation.
We do. I'm not necessarily saying the Salah has to go on the hot seat, but he's definitely a guy I'm looking at and saying, if this doesn't get much better between year 1 and year 2 after all that investment in draft capital and free agent spending, then what exactly is it that we have? What exactly is the reason that we have this defense first guy who was part of that Super Bowl run for the 49ers here for? It's something I'm really, really fascinated about, because I don't know what the pathway is for this defense to get much better if a guy like Jacoby Brissett looks that comfortable against them.
Such a weird place for this team to be 2 weeks into the season, where I'm watching the offense and it's like, okay, I get this. Like this fits together. I understand what they're trying to do, doing a lot of interesting stuff, making things easy on guys. And you look at the defense, like, well, this is still a disaster. It's just not what I were expected to be 2 weeks into the season. It's also not where I expected to be with the Browns, where this version of their offense, this was totally within the realm of outcomes, where the run game was going to look disgusting the same way that it always does. They were going to create easy completions. I thought that Amari Cooper had a really nice game. They really did some interesting stuff with him, lining him up at the number 3 spot, getting him in the nickel corner in certain matchup spots. I thought that they drew some interesting stuff off for David Njoku, who had a terrible drop on an important second down that led to a punt. But overall, the construction of the passing game is pretty good. The offense, I think, even with Jacoby Brissett, is going to be a unit that people have a difficult time with. But for that to be enough for them to sustain themselves while Brissett is their quarterback, I thought the defense had to be really good. And right now, the defense is pretty far from really good. So Joe Woods and Robert Saleh, former colleagues, former coworkers, both are on watch for me right now, 2 games into the year.
100%.
Speaking of being on watch, let's talk about the Patriots and the Steelers and their 2 offenses from this game. I don't know where to start with I don't know, either one of these teams. Who are you more disappointed with offensively, New England or Pittsburgh?
It might be Pittsburgh. And it was something I had to go back and rewind the tape to look at. So Mitch Trubisky throws a pick early in the game, and the Patriots are running like an inverted cover 2 look, where they're showing single high, the corner drops out, has the half, and you're playing cover 2 underneath. And I think after that throw, I don't think he threw the ball further than 12 yards the rest of the football game. And it was like, okay, I felt like my tape was on loop. It's like, okay, another drive of run for 2 yards, 4 yards, check down, 2 yards, 4 yards, check down. All right, motion, bootleg, try a shovel pass. That's not there. Check down. So it was confusing the heck out of me. And it got to a point where I was like, this isn't even a matter of New England or Bill Belichick just putting this offense in hell. This is just Mitchell Trubisky deciding that he's not even going to give Bill the opportunity to embarrass him. He's just checking it down left and right. So I think that now, after being sold on all the ways that they can move the pocket and create this misdirection to be able to generate more offense down the field, that is not the case with this offense right now. And all I'm looking at is a younger quarterback doing the exact same thing that Ben Roethlisberger did for the last 2 seasons.
I think he did throw the ball more than 12 yards one other point in the game. And it was,
I know he threw an over route.
Well, it was down the left sideline. It was the one he airmailed for George Pickens, and you could see just the deflation in George Pickens' body language after the throw. It's like, man, we just got no shot. And at a certain point, I think the Steelers probably have to have a conversation about what is the best thing for them, both in the short and long term. Because the defense, even without TJ Watt, I think is going to be a unit that can keep them in games for most of this season. Mm-hmm. But what are you doing offensively? If he's not better, if he's not giving you a real shot right now, aren't you limiting yourself in 2 ways? Because you're depressing what you can be in the short term and also sacrificing the quarterback's development in the long term. It just feels like sooner rather than later, he should probably get a shot, because how much worse could it be than this?
The way I'm looking at it is like, I think for this offense, you just have to have a quarterback that is going to be willing to throw interceptions. And Mitch Trubisky, he has no incentive as a guy who is trying to hang on as a viable, kind of fringe starter to high level backup in the league to push the ball down the field if he does not want to. I think that for the sake of this offense, in order for Matt Canada to get a look at some of the things that he needs to evaluate in terms of what this offense needs to be week by week and season over season, you probably do just need to go ahead and evaluate your young quarterback that way, because he's got enough runway to be able to take those one-on-one balls. Hey, just throw it up. I'd rather you underthrow it than overthrow it. If it gets picked off, at least we take the chance. It's hard watching Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson and what they have on the perimeter not really get any opportunity to create after the catch, to the point that I know that you and Nate talked about last week after the Thursday night game of the Chargers offense just feeling so stationary. There's just nothing happening after the catch, or guys are standing still or breaking towards the sideline on almost every completion. The same thing applies to the Steelers. Based on what they're doing with Mitch Trubisky, I have never known an offense to be able to be viable week over week, explosive week over week, dangerous week over week that plays offense that way. They're going to have to find a way to push the ball down the field. And if you can't get it out of Mitch Trubisky, I almost don't care where Kenny Pickett is at right now in terms of his development. They've got to get a look at something else if this is what it looks like, after Ben Roethlisberger.
Because when he uncorks it every once in a while, it doesn't look terrible. Like he had that 3rd and 7 play to Deontay Johnson down the left sideline where he had to kind of escape out to his left, made a really nice throw on the move, tried to take a whole shot to Johnson near the end of the first half that wasn't a terrible throw. Really bad underthrow on the wheel to Najee Harris in that one situation where he was on Judon.
Najee was pissed.
That's just a throw you got to hit. He's got 3 yards of separation. That's a 50-yard gain if he manages to lay it out there for him. Instead, Najee's got to try to make a leaping, twisting catch over an edge rusher that is guarding him in coverage.
Right.
And so it's going to be a mixed bag, but I would love to see them open it up just a little bit more. And it just doesn't seem like they're willing to do that right now. On the other side of the field, I think the Steelers' game plan in this game was really telling in the sense that they played 40% man coverage and they just weren't afraid. And that's how teams are going to play the Patriots, I think. Through 2 games, I want to say that they have the 3rd highest man coverage rate that they've faced of anybody. The Eagles are up there near the top, but that's a weird game against the Lions. We're blitzing on 50% of dropbacks. Right. I'm going to guess that until we see a reason for it to change, the Patriots are going to be near the top or at the top of that list for most of the year. You're not worried about what the quarterback is going to do to you with his feet, and you're not worried about what any of the pass catchers are going to do to you, with one notable exception. When Nelson Aguilar made that play down the right sideline, I had a moment like John Mulaney with the horse in the hospital. It's like, I didn't know he knew how to do that.
Yes. I was blown away. I was like, wait, I've been watching Nelson Aguilar not only since he was in Philadelphia, but at USC. I was like, I don't remember him dunking on guys like that over the top. With the Steelers defense, one of the funny things that I was watching is and this was something that was definitely there with Keith Butler, but they very obviously have we do not respect this quarterback package of defense where guys who are playing in the middle of the field don't move off of their 15, 16-yard landmark. They're playing almost flat-footed. They play. That's when you
16. When Minka was playing as the robber in those looks, he was 8 yards past the line of scrimmage. All of their biggest completions were going behind him because of how shallow he was playing.
I was watching some snaps of cover 3 where I was like, okay, their hook defenders got to 10 yards exactly and stopped. This was clearly practiced throughout the week that they have so very little respect for him. They played a lot of soft cover 2, not even mixing up the rotations, just playing straight ahead cover 2. To see if Mac Jones would even take a chance in that 16 to 18-yard hole in the middle of the field and up the sideline. Didn't happen a whole bunch. And then everything else was just a bunch of cover 1 with Minka as the robber, trying to take away some of those dig routes. And the funny thing about Mac Jones, when I watch him, is he's not a timing thrower, right? He's a throw in the space guy. When you get him over routes where you can just throw it in the air, he looks really, really good with that. When it's like dagger concepts where you get a clear out and he's got a bunch of airspace to throw the ball into, he looks really proficient at that. Against a defense like this, where they're trying to play a bunch of tight coverage or take away some of those open airspace throws across the middle of the field, and now he's got to be really on time. Soon as your foot hits the ground at the bottom of your drop, you've got to be ready to get the ball out. he has a lot of trouble with that. And that's how you get early in the game where it's just target to the running back, target to the running back, target to the running back. I felt like the first 2 drives had more targets to the running back than I had seen in the rest of the morning slate throughout all those first quarters, because he's just not comfortable timing out where these zones are opening or manipulating zone coverage with his feet or with his eyes. That was something that was very evident to me. And then just in general with the Patriots, I think I hate this version of this offense that plays 11 personnel to everything and they get no movement up front. What is this offense? I know this is something that has been talked about a bunch, but the passing progressions are fine in terms of always having a crosser and something in the flat to create a horizontal stretch, but there's no run game to bring guys forward, and there's nothing vertical to keep these DBs deeper down the field. So now we are asking Mac Jones to basically be a superhero in the pocket, which is how you get this just absolutely stagnant offense where, just like the Steelers, it felt like every drive was on a loop. I felt like I knew the runs that were happening. I knew where he was going to have to go in the passing game because nothing was changing and there was no threat to the Steelers defense throughout the game.
Their best stretch in the run game was the 4-minute drill.
Yep.
When they were actually like lining up and having to smash people.
Yes.
That was the best their offense looked the entire game, is when they had to line up and just run the ball. And I think that's pretty telling. The one thing, and the crossing point is so perfect because I can picture in my mind the most effective passing play that the Patriots had on Sunday. They were in 11 personnel. They had Jonnu Smith as the single receiver to the left side. And when Terrell Edmonds was over there guarding him, Mac is sitting there being like, well, it's man coverage. I know it's man coverage. And then he hits the crosser or second in breaker, whatever it was. A lot of the time it was a crosser from that number 3 spot coming all the way across the field with Jonnu Smith clearing it out. They hit that 3 or 4 times. They hit it to Jacoby Myers. They hit it to Nelson Aguilar. That was their passing game outside of that one huge chunk that they hit to Nelson Aguilar. That's it.
And then the hilarious thing is that then the Steelers are like, okay, well, now we're just going to put Minka Fitzpatrick as a robber in the hole.
Yeah.
Have fun now. Now go do something else now. And there was not a whole lot else for this offense to do. So this is just how they're going to be defended. It's going to be a lot of 3 robber and a lot of soft cover 2. And the rest is just going to be straight man coverage across the board. And F you, go beat us over the top. And I can't think of a worse type of context to be asking Mac Jones to be playing quarterback under in the NFL. So I don't know exactly what is supposed to improve about this. If you can't get in the heavy personnel and dictate to defenses what they can and can't do with the run game, and you don't have guys to win over the top when you do get those obvious one-on-one situations on the perimeter.
This is one of those games where the Patriots won, but it could go either way based on bounces.
Nobody feels good. Yes.
Nobody feels good. Sutton drops that pick. It hits him in the chest.
Yes.
And then immediately after that, Gunnar Olszewski muffs the punt. And it gives the Patriots the ball like at the 25-yard line. It's just one of those ugly games that flip a coin and nobody feels good coming out of it. I think you have real concerns about both sides of it. All right, we're going to take one more break here, and then we're going to wrap up with a real quick look at Giants-Panthers. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. We just hired a couple new producers for our show this year. I know that was a pretty involved process, and any way you can streamline that is a huge help for you and your small business. And that's exactly what LinkedIn Jobs and their easy free job postings allow you to do. You add your job and the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. With simple tools like screening questions, you can make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. You know you want to finish the year strong, and the right team member might be able to help you do that. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/maze. That's linkedin.com/MAYS to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Some of us can't watch a game unless everything's just the way we need it. Maybe you're a little bit superstitious. I don't have that many weird things when I'm watching NFL games. I'm usually just very quiet and subdued in a way that the people around me don't always understand, including my fiance. When she watches me watch the Bears, I always think she's a little bit confused about how into it I actually am. Or maybe you just like to have the best possible setup before kicking back for a few hours. If that's the case, a lot of you could probably use an upgrade to your seating.
or really anything in your living space. And for that, you're going to want to check out my friends at Burrow. Burrow gives you free shipping on every order. Every order from Burrow, no matter how large or small, includes free shipping, which can save you an average of $100 on bigger items like a couch. That's a lot of money. They cover the entire field with 3 iconic modular seating systems and everything from coffee tables to credenzas. Burrow is your one-stop shop for outfitting your home in style. Their expanded index collection extends the minimal, carpentry-inspired design of their wall shelves to bookcases, stools, tables, desks, and more. I love it when everything in a room has the same feel. It all matches. It's really nice for it all to come together like that. Show Burrow you're listening to The Athletic Football Show by shopping at burrow.com/maze and get $75 off your first order. That's Burrow, BURROW.com/maze for $75 off. Burrow.com/MAYS. Guys, you've got to do yourself a favor and try Sax. I've been talking about them a lot lately. They make the most comfortable underwear for men, thanks in part to their patented ballpark pouch, which is basically a built-in hammock that keeps everything in place. Sax underwear is legitimately life-changing, and they just announced Steph and Trayvon Diggs as new partners of the company. Sax has the softest styles for everyday use, and their sport line is next level. The athletic shorts, compression tights, swim trunks, all with the ballpark pouch. I love the 2-in-1 Gain Maker short that has a built-in liner, which is exactly how I like my workout shorts. Also, the fabric is incredibly soft. They've already become my favorite workout shorts that I have, and I'm usually pretty particular about that type of clothing in general. Here's the kicker. Everything is backed by Sax's comfort guarantee. That's 100% satisfaction or your money back. So head on over to saxx.com/maze and get 10% off plus free shipping using promo code MAZE today. That's saxx.com/MAYS and promo code MAZE at checkout for 10% off and free shipping.
Here's the deal. I've got a hangover. Who knows what that means?
All right. Very quickly here, let's talk about Giants Panthers. The Giants are 2-0. We have to talk about this at least a little
the
bit.
most disgusting 2-0 that you could possibly be.
It's one of those things where, all right, I'm going to dig into the game. Maybe that's going to be more impressive than I thought. They beat a bad Panthers team, and they're going to do a lot of good things. And there are some good things. The Panthers fumbled twice inside their own 40-yard line the first 2 times they touched the ball in this game, and the Giants came away with 6 points and eventually won by a field goal. This game was as ugly as you thought it might be looking at the box score.
I think that the last time I saw a game this gross from the Giants was when they played the Dolphins last season in like that disgusting RPO fest where nobody could move the ball. I think that game finished like 13-9 or something gross like that. There's like nobody's moving the football at all. Both quarterbacks are seems like they're both falling ass backwards into completions and first down conversions. I will say that Christian McCaffrey looked decent, but if I'm looking at anything else, I have no idea what I'm supposed to pull positively from what I saw on Sunday between these two teams.
Baker Mayfield's talk about pocket navigation and presence and all that with Justin Fields. It remains really really concerning. It's every single time they brought pressure, it's him bailing to his right. It's him having absolutely no feel for how to handle those situations. That was a problem throughout this game. A couple things about the Giants offense that I think are worth pointing out. Andrew Thomas looks like a dude. Yes. He looks like a real dude, and that is definitely a step in the right direction. Evan Neal's going to have his ups and downs. There are some highs, there are some lows. I think this game was no different. The other thing was I really liked a lot of the play action concepts they had for Daniel Jones that just made it super, super easy on him.
Yes.
He averaged 3.3 air yards per target off play action in this game, 3.3. But on those plays, 7 of 9 for 73 yards. So 73 of his 173 passing yards and the touchdown that he threw and multiple scrambles for first downs. So just giving him little options in the flat, little things where he's on the move, trying to make it easier on him in that way. It's something, right? It's something that you're trying to build this offense out of when David Sills is one of your, is getting all of this run at receiver, when you have all of these moving parts along the interior of the offensive line. This team, can we keep our hands on the wheel and white knuckle it until the end of the season and get some flashes from our young guys? That's it. And the fact that you happen to stumble into 2 wins early on as part of that process, More power to
Can't
you
beat it.
guys.
Yeah, can't beat it. It's funny hearing the air yards number because every one of those play actions, like especially on bootlegs, from a coaching perspective, you always say, "Hey, hit the slide if the slide is there. Hit the flat if the flat is there."
And that's what he's got.
I feel like Brian Dable is screaming at Daniel Jones if he even thinks about throwing anything that is not the slide or the flat route. Like I don't even. I think if Brian Dable could design these play action passes where nobody else ran a route except for the slide, he would do it that way to make sure that nothing bad can happen. But to your point on Baker, it's one, I mean, you're dealing with Wink Martindale, who is certainly going to put stress on you in terms of pocket navigation, but even against like the 4-man rushes, and this is where I was watching the game and just thinking, this is just who Baker Mayfield is now.
Yeah.
It's 4-man rushes and he's dropping his eyes, running into the back of a guard and then having to bounce back out. And at that point now you can't even see the field because of everything that's changed in just that half second of you panicking. So that level of panic was definitely a major red flag for me. That just kind of lets me know that whatever it was that we saw of him in the second half of last season, that was not just an injury thing. The injury may have exacerbated it, but his eyes are bad. His trust is bad right now within the offenses that he's operating under. And I think that even with what Ben McAdoo is trying to do, there's some heavier personnel. There's some deep pocket play action stuff. They're trying to do some of the things that I think puts Baker in position where he can be successful. He's just not working the ball and working the pocket the way that you would need to see from a veteran quarterback.
Couple moments from defensive players, young-ish defensive players on the Giants. Thought that Darnell Holmes had a couple nice flashes in this game. Julian Love had a couple TFLs, including that big sack late in the game. That's all you need. Like, can we get some of that every single week while creating some good feelings about where this thing is moving forward before we kind of take a blowtorch to this thing in the offseason? So exactly. Good for the Giants, good for Brian Dable. I'm sure they're feeling really, really good here at 2-0. We'll see what things look like here in a month.
Yeah, and I don't imagine that they'll be very good.
And that's fine. It doesn't
matter.
And that's
okay.
It's totally
because nobody
fine.
wants this thing to be good anyways. That's success to me. You got a couple of wins so you can look at everybody and say that we know what we're doing here. And now when we lose, we can look and say, we always knew we were bad. We just got a good system in place here.
All right. That is all we have for right now, even though Beller just pointed this out. They're favored against the Cowboys next week on Monday Night Football, which is absolutely incredible.
Vegas. Come on, guys.
So,
come on, guys. So
speaking of Monday Night Football, we do not have a recap show tonight. We're going to take it easy. I'm just going to watch some football and sit on the couch. I highly recommend that you guys do the same. We will be back on Wednesday with my friend Brian Curtis from The Ringer. We're going to talk about what football looked like on television this week with all of the new bells and whistles and the Amazon broadcast and all the new booths. So please come and check that out on Wednesday morning. Really excited to chat with Curtis, as I always am. In the meantime, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed already, we're going to be doing this show every Monday. We have our Sunday night recap with Nate that's on there. Nate's newest edition of Wind the Clock, breaking down Christian Kirk's first touchdown for the Jags, is up on the channel already. We're doing a new extended version of Wind the Clock on YouTube. We heard your guys' complaints, concerns, all of that stuff. So please go check that out. Also, please subscribe to The Athletic, where you can read Diante, where you can read Nate, where you can read all of our wonderful NFL coverage, theathletic.com/football show. And last but not least, if you like the show, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Tell us you like the show. Give us 5 stars. I would really appreciate it. I do read them. So please let us know. That would mean a lot to me, would mean a lot to us. So please go do that. In the meantime, we really appreciate you guys listening. We will be back on Wednesday morning with Brian Curtis. Talk to you guys later.